Alright, so I'm about to do a cook today, and the basis of this cook is to talk about fire management and building a fire. So first thing, you want to clear your firebox out, which I've done. If you see a little thing peeking right here, that's just some extra solids that were in there. Basically just lump charcoal. I use those as to help with the starter. What you gotta have, obviously you gotta have some fuel. You can use splits, blocks of wood, chunks, whatever. To establish a bed of charcoal, I'll use some lump charcoal here. You want that as a bed of coals. And then to help with the start, use tumbleweeds, paper, whatever. I generally use a little bit of brown paper like this. And I spray it with a little bit of this cheap oil here. And you can light it with a match, you can light it with a cigarette lighter, it don't matter. I recommend a torch. This isn't one of the real expensive ones. You can get this thing on Amazon for like, I think I paid $27, $28 for it. And I would recommend a small leaf blower. This is not, it's a battery powered, it's not some big powerful thing. It's got a little selector switch there, and it's, you can see here, I've got to turn it down so you can turn it up. But the switch on this, so here we can see, the switch over here is variable pressure, and that's all you'll ever need. And the reason for the leaf blower, I'll show you in a minute once we get the grate put back in there, which I've got sitting over there. We'll get some lump charcoal on here and some paper under the grate and get ready to get it lit. So the first thing I did, I put my grate in there, which is just an old fireplace grate I bought. Put my paper in, sprayed it with a little bit of cheap cooking oil. Some people might say that's unnecessary. To me, I find it works better. Kind of helps that paper burn just a little bit longer, a little bit hotter. And then some of those chunks from last time, like I said, it's just the solids left over. Just lump charcoal is all it is. Damn it, the ash. It's windy out here, and it's about 36 degrees, so it's pretty awesome. It's gonna be a good day to cook and talk about temperatures. So we'll put some lump charcoal on top of that, a couple tumbleweeds in that, and get it lit. And that wind is not a good thing, but it is what it is. You can work through it. And I will say, when you cook with an offset, you can cook in the wintertime. It's no big deal. But if you buy one of the little cheap char grillers or whatever, like you see at Home Depot, you're not really going to have good results. That metal's super thin. You'll end up having to buy like a smoker jacket and all that stuff. I recommend go ahead and get you a good one. You know, 1/4-inch steel plate. That's what this one's built out of completely. This is a Yoder loaded Wichita. And that thick metal is going to help insulate it a whole lot better than those little flimsy things you buy at Home Depot or Lowe's. All right, got a little ahead of myself here. Just going to show the tumbleweeds. Here's one, the other one's under this. This is just lump charcoal, you can see. And you see this stuff is just burnt carbonized wood. Really just the same thing that's left over that doesn't turn to ash from the previous cook. And some people say, oh, don't use any charcoal or anything from the previous cook or pieces of wood, it's stale. Well, I'm not planning on putting it on a damn cracker and eating it. We're using it to start a fire, just to preheat our smoker. So let's get this thing going here. We'll put a little bit of wood on top here, but this is just to establish a coal bed under this stuff. So we'll get a little wood on top and use that torch and get it going. Now for kindling, if you're making a campfire, or if you're like me, you have a lot of trees in your yard, you can use sticks or whatever, just something to get it going. But the guy I get my wood from, he has stuff where he splits his logs. He'll kind of bundle that stuff up. I'll show you here. He has these bundles, and that's excellent stuff used for kindling. I got 3 bags from him just yesterday. And I've mentioned it before, he's on YouTube, Foothills Firewood, so if you're in North Carolina like I am, check him out. I live in the west central part of the state. And when you're building your fire, you know, you want to allow some airflow. I'm going to stick the torch just under here, but you can see I'm not stacking that stuff in a way where it's just going to smother it out. that lump charcoal, it's kind of loosely piled on there. It's not packed down or anything, so you want this to be able to breathe to get it going good. Now put this grate back in here. If you've watched any of my other videos, you'll see this grate on inside the firebox. It's a cooking grate. It comes with the Yoder loaded Wichita. I've never cooked on it, but just for storage sake, I put it in there. So, like I said, you'll see it in there, but I don't put wood or anything on top of it. You get ready to start it. Open your lid all the way up. Let's get your damper open, because you want maximum airflow to get this thing going good. And I'll have this open just for a minute, but I'll shut it momentarily. This torch, get a little. That paper and stuff right there, you don't even have to use it that long. So you already got good flames. I just kind of like to toast that lump charcoal, help get it going good. Now the leaf blower, if you're wondering about it, if you live like I do, I kind of live in town here, so I got smoke everywhere. You don't want all this smoke, rolling out. So you want to get these flames going as quick as you can, so just light breeze, not a whole lot. You see that stuff burning, getting it good and hot in there. It helps get your fuel ignited all the way through and get a good fire in there. Now you don't have to use that, but you're just gonna spend a lot more time out here waiting on all this stuff to catch and get preheated so you can start cooking. And you'll get some smoke. So it hadn't even been about a minute or so and the smoke's already starting to thin out from what it was. Now I'll take some smaller pieces of this, start adding it in here a little bit, because you want to get a suitable bed of coals before you start putting any big splits in there. I'll talk a bit about smoke also, clean smoke, dirty smoke. I'll show you, get over here where the sun hits us just right. That smoke it's not horrible, but it's a little dirtier than what you want. But look, if you were to close this off, let's kind of stifle the fire just for a second. A little counterproductive for what I'm trying to do, but to demonstrate what dirty smoke looks like, put this and kind of, let's choke the fire down a little bit. This stuff will get thick and nasty real quick. See there? Not even 30 seconds. That is dirty smoke. If you use that, you're gonna have bitter and really unpleasant barbecue. So you don't want, you don't want your smoker belching like a damn steam engine. So we'll open it up, let the fire breathe. That is not what you want. We'll open this up, get that door back open. Look at that. See all that? Neighbors are loving me right now. So you don't want your smoker looking like that. I'm gonna take the leaf blower and correct this, and I'll show you what the clean smoke, what your smoke should look like. All right, so I used the leaf blower to get this thing under control, get it back to where we had it. Now let's look at the smoke. It hadn't even been maybe a minute and a half. All right, let's see if you can see this good. Find the dark. There you go. Wispy, bluish, semi-transparent smoke. That makes good barbecue. That's what you want. You don't want that bellowing thick smoke, real thick white or gray. That's not gonna make good. That's not gonna make good meat. So I started cooking on a Weber kettle, and that's how you control your temperatures on the kettle, using the vents only. And unfortunately, something like that you control with the vents, and what you're doing, you're choking your fire. So you get a smolder instead of complete combustion like this. You get dirty, bad smoke. But this is what we want right here. So we'll let this get going. just here in a minute or two, we'll let some of that break down, and we'll add a few more big pieces of that kindling, and then a couple of full splits. And we will start getting the coal bed under here. And then to manage your fire, you don't need any fancy tools. I just use a simple shovel, and I bought this little cheap fireplace poker for about $12 on Amazon, just to kind of move things around in there. That's all you need. Don't have to be fancy or elaborate. All right, it starts looking like this. Most of that big stuff's broke down. You got a coal bed under there. You can kind of jostle this around a little bit. Make sure this stuff's burning good. We'll get ready here in a second and put us a full-size split in there and put the meat on. Take a peek at the temperature here. There we go. It was just over 300 a minute ago, but I brushed the grates off. I'll do a cleaning video separate from this, but this one I'm gonna focus on just your temperature management and smoke. And as I said, you can use anything. You can use big chunks like this, full-size splits. I get a lot of these wood chunks. This is oak, so I'll take it and stick that in there and get it started. Give that a second. I'll take that shovel and adjust it as needed. You just want to make sure you got a good bed of coals under it and some flames lapping at one end of it. If you put too much big stuff in there, you're gonna get too hot real quick. So we just want to get this going, and we'll get the meat. And as this one catches, we'll push it back and put another piece of wood up front here to go ahead and start getting hot and maybe catch on one side. You don't want to put too much in there, just small amounts. And help get this thing burning good. We'll kind of get it to rock up there just a little bit on the edge of the grate. There we go. You don't want it sitting flat on anything. That's why you use a grate. You put it flat on the coals, you could cause the bottom to smolder a little bit. And that sun is kind of behind the smoker, so I apologize for this glare. I'm trying not to stick my camera in the fire. Like I said, small amounts. We're firing a smoker to smoke meat. We're not firing a steam locomotive or anything. And to show what I'm cooking here, we'll do a couple chicken breasts, and I'm gonna do these. These are basically half of a picnic roast each, part of a pork shoulder with the skin on. They weigh about 4 pounds a piece. So I'll stick them in there, and then I'll put the chicken on just a little bit later because it won't take near as long to cook as these will. Alright, so I got the meat in here. I'm gonna go in there and get me a water pan. I forgot about that. Just put an aluminum half pan in there with some water in it. And we'll get this thing closed up. Then you want to adjust your damper over here. We don't want to leave it open. We just had it open like that for the light, get it started. I close it about 2/3 of the way down, maybe 3/4. And I'll show you a little bit about the temperature and how to control that shortly. Alright, so I went in the house just long enough to get a water pan. Use hot water. You don't want to put a bunch of cold water in your smoker. Knock your temperatures down. Let's see how we're doing. We'll do a damper set like it is. There we go. It's about perfect on 275, which is what I'm aiming for. To accomplish that, vent wide open. Let's see if I can just freaking glare. Vent wide open, and I cracked my firebox door just a little bit. And the damper's just like I left it set a minute ago. And you can see here, got that good smoke, semi-transparent, got a bluish color to it, good clean smoke. And so I am not a fan at all of the sun in the wintertime. It's in the south, it glares off everything. But anyway, water pan's in there. Temperature is recovering really quickly. It's almost back to 275. I had the lid open for maybe 30 seconds to put that in there, and it's been shut for about a minute and a half. So that's where your 1/4 inch steel plate helps. It retains a whole lot of heat. So we're rocking right back on 275 now. Been about an hour or so, hadn't had to touch it. Still about 275, but came out, opened the firebox. It is time for some more wood. As you can see, still got that one big piece in there. So I'll take another chunk here about like this, and I'm not going to put it all the way back in the fire. We'll just set it like this, just to kind of get the end of it started. If you push it all the way back in there and it lights, then your temperature's going to spike, so we'll put it back here. All right, I got different types of wood laid out here. I'm going to show you. First of all, I'm going to show you what you don't want to use. And I picked this up back here in the backyard. Something like this, you know, fell out of a tree, covered in fungus, mushrooms. It's pretty much rotted, what they call punky. You don't want to use that. This stuff's soft. It's you know, you break it with your hand. You don't want to be cooking with moldy stuff. Speaking of mold, here's a block I've got. So we got a little bit of black mold on it, where some fungus was. It was on the ground, wet. I'll actually throw this piece away. I kept it so I could do this video, but that came with the last batch of the block wood I got. So yeah, don't use that. If you got a fire pit, something like that, it's fine, but I wouldn't cook with that. And you got splits, all different sizes here. You got these bigger splits, and this is actually from one of the blocks I got. It's a larger chunk. And some smaller ones. Sometimes I'll take these like this and split them into two, and I'll explain why in a second. And then if you got access to something like I do, you get, you know, big blocks of wood. That's oak. So you got that. You get large wood chunks, small wood chunks. Small wood chunks, they're better for like a small, like a barrel smoker, Weber Smoky Mountain, Weber kettle. These are gonna burn up really fast in an offset. Chunks like this will be fine in an offset. You're just going to end up managing your fire a lot more if you put things like that in there. Okay, talk about sizes here. Most places you're going to get splits like this. When I get them from my wood guy, actually where I got these two, this is what you'll get. Now, if your fire is getting low, but you've got a good bed of coals in there, then you know you can put one of these in and be fine. Now, if it's a cold day like this and your fire is getting low and you're kind of combating low ambient temperature as well, then I'll put something like this in there, because this will catch and it'll burn a little longer without having to worry about managing the fire. If you just need an increase of like, you know, 15, 20, 30 degrees, something like that, that's where small splits like this come into play. If you got a good bed of embers midway through the cook, you know, you've got a good split in there, but you just want to boost the temperature by about 20 to 30 degrees, then it's good to have some splits like this on hand. You'll take one of these and stick it in there, and that'll give you about a 25, 30 degree increase in temperature. That's what I generally use things like this for. And these blocks, I actually, they come really large. I'll show you here. I've got a bunch of them over here. These big, so I got one that's huge there. But those blocks, I split those down, and they'll be either halves or thirds. So a lot of them are just pieces like that. Those are good for just supplement your wood supply. Most of that is oak and hickory. And I'll do another video talking about actual, you know, different types of wood that you can use, like cherry, hickory, oak, all that good stuff. All right, so temperature started to drop down about 250. It's starting to cool off out here a bit more. So another thing you can do is put a little wood around on your firebox. You gotta be careful doing that, because you can set it on fire if you're not careful. So like on this Yoder, I got a little hot plate thing on there, but don't put this side with that stuff on it down. And keep an eye on it. Like if you're gonna go in the house for a little while, I wouldn't have it stacked on top like that. I'd put it over here. But temperature's down, so we want to increase it. I've added one split, but we want to get it up a little bit more. So we'll go ahead and add another split in here. Because that's one thing, that's part of the battle. When you're out here cooking and it's really cold, you're combating the ambient temperature. So we want to get our temps back up. Got that going. We'll shut the firebox door again. Alright, so that sun's finally starting to settle behind the trees over there. It's not jacking up my video here. So a couple other things I can tell you about this. As opposed to something like a Weber kettle, when you have to open the lid for anything, whether you're going to spritz your meat, refill your water pan, check, take a temp, add wood, whatever you got to do, it's going to take a little bit to recover from whatever you do. Generally, in my experience, it's about 15 minutes. So if you're cooking at 275, you take the lid off, it's going to drop way down to like, probably 180 if you have the lid off for more than a minute or so. And then what's going to happen when you put the lid back on, say you add some wood to it. When you put the lid back on, it's going to get that rush of oxygen, and then it's going to spike from, it's going to go back to the 275 you want, but it's probably going to take off and go up to about 325 for just a little bit, and it's going to take about 15 minutes to stabilize. You'll be over there messing with vents and everything else, and it'll take you a little bit to recover. On these, it's not like that. Like here, I just added a little bit of wood to it. So it's about 260, it's climbing. Say it went to 300, I didn't want it at 300, I wanted it at, 275. There's a few things you can do. You can come over here and open the firebox door all the way. You can, let me open the door, show you here. You can open the firebox door all the way up. And instead of worrying about the vents, you can actually take your shovel or something and pull the fire back towards the door, away from the heat exchange up there. If you do that, then more of your heat's going to escape out the door than going up into your cooking chamber. That's one thing you can do. Another thing you can do is just remove a log completely. If your temperature gets too high, you can completely remove a part of your fuel. Another thing you can do is go over here and see where I had the firebox door wide open. See, it dropped back down to 250 from 260 where it was climbing. So this will mess with my cook time a little bit, but to show you, you can also just open this. If it starts getting too hot, just open this for 45 seconds to a minute. And that's going to give you a pretty drastic heat drop, which it'll recover relatively quickly, but it's going to keep you from drying something out. You're choking it down in a kettle and you've got the temperature running too hot for 15, 20 minutes and you're late in the cook, you could dry it out. So we'll close this. And there we go. See, it went down to 200. But it won't take it long and it'll recover back to around 260, 275 because of the metal, the thickness, and I've got plenty of fuel in there going. In fact, you can see it's already climbing. So the response time is a lot quicker on an offset, especially a quality offset, as opposed to like a kettle when you open it up. Lastly, you can use your damper. If you have it like this, the temperature will be a little bit lower. If you crack it open more, then you're increasing the airflow and your temperature rises. But you don't really want to do that, because if you go open your damper all the way wide open, what you're doing is you're going to get this super hot draft that's just blowing over your meat. It's going to spike the temperature, it's going to get hot, and potentially dry your meat out on the surface. So you don't want that. I would recommend control your temperature on the firebox end. Leave your damper set like this. This will give you good smoke flavor, and it's just less you have to mess with. I don't like to mess with the airflow a whole lot in here for consistent results. Let's see, this is still going up. So to control your temperature, like I said, do it from the firebox end. Use your shovel or whatever. Adjust the fuel, adjust the, open the door. Whatever you got to do, you can rake the fire from over here back towards the door, If you need the heat to go back up, you can push it back. It's just a lot of things you can do. Or lastly, you can even open this firebox door. I don't ever do that, but I mean, you can do it. I mean, there's no need in that, but those little cheap ones I see at the big box stores, I've seen a couple of them that I don't even think they have a side door on. You have to open the top to load fuel into it. They'll just have a vent on the side. I wouldn't have one of those personally, but to each his own. You know, if you're just starting off, you may have to start with a cheaper one. You know, $300, $400, $500. But I would highly recommend to go ahead and, if you want to get an offset, get a good one. Spend the money once, cry once. So yeah, a lot of things you can do in here. You know, you can always move a piece of your fuel over to the side as well. Drop it over there. If it's not over the grate, it'll slow down the burn, especially if it's not combusted yet. Lots of options. That's what I like about an offset. There's lots of ways to do this. Control your temperature and get a good finished final product. All right, now I can talk about this stuff till I'm blue in the face, but it's better if I show you. So I added that extra piece to get the temperature to jump. So I'm aiming for 275. We got it at 300. So we'll go over here, get the firebox door open. That's the first thing we'll do. Secondly, let's move a piece of this fuel back. Let's get that back away from there and pull this one back. So I'm not taking it all the way out, I'm just pulling it back to the door. Let's go see what happens here. It's starting to drop already. See, it was on 300. It's probably about 290 and decreasing. So you get results fast when you do something on this. So when it gets down a little bit more, I'll go over, push one of the two pieces of wood back, probably the smaller one, and shut the door again. See? All right. It's been about a minute and a half. See, we're down to about 260 now. And we did that by not touching any of the vents. And got quick results. Meanwhile, while we're worrying about wood and fire and all that good stuff, check on the meat. It's looking good. Just put these chicken breasts on. Don't want any chicken drippage on my pork, so I'll put them over there to start off. So I believe I've covered the basics here a little more so than that little short video I did before on building a fire, temperature management, different types and sizes of wood splits, managing the fire, vents, what they do. But anyway, I believe that'll wrap this video up. If you got any questions, ask in the comments. I'll do my best to answer it. If I don't know the answer, I'm sure I can find it. And if I need to do another video to elaborate further on any given part of what I said here, then I will definitely do so. I plan to do a cleaning video as well on this, and the Weber kettle, because that thing does need it. The last few times I've cooked, it's been without the lid on it, but it's a little dirty. So I'll do a cleaning video on that, separate from this, but I'll do a cleaning video on this as well. Starting to get a little grime in there building up on my baffle plate. I brushed off the inside of the lid the other day. But after this cook, I'll probably end up getting a little more flakage on top, so I'll show about getting that off. Keep little crusties off your food. But anyway, if you like this kind of content, I appreciate the views, like and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next video.